Sun City in the Northwest Province, where the world's best golfers gather annually, where world heavyweight champions have strutted their stuff, and where old Blue Eyes once crooned. But this time, the top 74 South African off-roaders were there to make their cars sing for glory, and the 2007 Sun City 400 title, the third race in the ABSA Off-Road Championship. The battles were all delicately poised, if you can use that phrase in off-road racing, as things can change in a nanosecond. The route at Sun City is always demanding, and this year there would be the added hindrance of a lot of dust. The area had been without any significant rainfall, thus the cars would churn up tons of dirt in pursuit of getting to the line first, after 400 grueling Ks of very hard-out racing. In the production car class, there was a 23-point breathing space between champion Hannes Grobler and his navigator Francois Jordan and his Nissan Navara teammate Duncan Voss and Brandon Harkes in a Ford Racing Ranger.
Yeah, the Sun City is always a tough event. You know, it doesn't look like it, but it's quite rough. And, you know, I think the guys think it's fast, and then for some or another reason, we always have a problem on this race, but I'm sure the car is well prepared, and it's now a car that's run for more than a year, and I'm very confident that we'll be there in the front.
Confident indeed, but Grobler certainly had a score to settle with this event. Not so though for defending production car champions Ford's Neil Woolridge and his co-driver Kenny Schothammer.
Yeah, I think the rest of the team settling in very well. Brandon's lying second in the championship, and he's doing more than we ever thought he would do, so he's doing a great job. Manfred's doing well in the other SB car, he's settling into that nicely. And of course, Jack and Lucio are lying second in the Class E championship with two good finishes, you know, behind them, which is, for the team, is very good. So the championship's looking good for all those cars. For myself personally, it's been disastrous. I always tell the story. I had a customer phone me the other day, we were just talking generally. He says, are you still racing this year? I said, yes, you'd never think so if you looked at the results. But yeah, from my own personal side, we've had, you know, 2 DNFs, no points this year. So we're looking to hopefully change at this event. But the team's really working well. The cars are good. We're making constant changes as we go along all the time, improving little things, changing odds and ends, and cars are really working nicely. It's going to be a tough race. Sun City's always a hard race, so but we're really looking forward to it.
In the Castrol Toyota Cup, there was mounting confidence as the red, white and green brand was starting to look ominous. They enjoy this city in the sun.
Yeah, look, the Sun City event's always a good event. I'm really looking forward to it with a new vehicle. You know, the guys have put in a lot of effort. The last event was a little bit of a struggle for us. But I think we're coming out with a very strong package. I think we've really got something to look forward to. So, yeah, time will tell.
In the super production or SP class, the competition was tough, and some teams were still carrying the scars from the previous race in KwaZulu-Natal.
Shishlui was quite tough. It was a very nice race. I think it was so far one of the best races I've ever taken part in. We were a little bit unfortunate there. We got a 3rd place, which is quite good. It was at least a finish. And luckily for us, we're lying first in the Class D championships at the moment. But Sun City is a different animal. I think you must treat it different to Shishlui. The terrain looks easy. It's not easy. It's very tough and very hard on the vehicles and even on the drivers. And I think it might be a tough weekend.
And it was, but this game is all about performance out on the country roads of Southern Africa.
Shishlui was a good race. We ran 2-wheel drive. We didn't even have 4-wheel drive, and we finished second. It was a very good result for us. This race, I've done it twice before, and I know it's very rough, and it's much longer than normal. So the object here is to just get the car to the end. We'll probably race the last 100 Ks if we have to, but we just want to get to the end.
That's the premise most teams set out from. In the specials, there's a little less of it though. Here, the father and son team of Nick and Ryan Harper and the Blue Atlas Copco were pace-setting for Shamir Varayawa and Siegfried Rousseau in their Total Porter.
We always hope that we can win again, you know, 2 in a row. It's not very easy. There's so many cars out there that can actually win. There's probably 10 guys that could win this race. But we're going to try our best and also not push it too hard because we're leading the championship. We don't want to throw points away. Consistency also counts, but I'd like to finish in the top 3. A win will be great, you know.
All eyes, though, were on the brand new silver and black Motorite Bat Spec 3, which were debuted and rolled out for the first time in the Pilanesberg.
Yeah, we made this decision at the end of last year to campaign 2 new cars for the new season. There's a lot of guys that brought other new cars and competitive cars out there, so we needed to stay on top of our game, and that it forced us to make 2 new vehicles for the season. The reason it's taken us a while to get them out here is that you didn't want to bring them out without doing some proper testing and knowing that the setup was right and so on and so forth. So taken us a bit longer than expected, but hopefully in theory they're much quicker, they're much faster, they're lighter, they've got more power and they handle better, but that will be, we'll find out what the decision is at the end of tomorrow, whether they were better or not, or whether we didn't drive them fast enough.
But it wouldn't be for a lack of trying. For the Total Motorsport Porter team, they were still ink drying on a brand new contract for Naim Musaji and Rayhan Bodiana.
We got an offer from Shamir Viriawa to join his team, Total Motorsport. We're very excited about it. It means a lot to us to start off. It's a part sponsor at the moment with our original sponsor of Cooper Tires. But we believe Total is a big name out there, and there are 55 decades in motorsport. So I believe they're a strong team, and it's a good name to be with.
Another new name that had also joined the off-road circus was Regent Insurance Partners and Cargo Motors. They were running 3 entries, most notably Jan and Hendrik Kraai, the revelation of Class B last year, and already 2-time winners this season, with the 05 national champion Terence Marsh also in the stable. On the prologue, a time trial designed to establish the starting order for the next day's racing over a daunting 55 kilometers, the ever-improving Brandon Harkis and his co-driver Jean Moore in the Ford Ranger were a little disappointing, hitting a piece of earth quite solidly.
Good shot. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
On the other side of that coin, Nissan's former champions Duncan Voss and Rolf Pitchford were flying along, clocking the fastest intermediate times. And they streaked by stricken Harkis. Voss's teammate, the 4-time national champion Grobler and his Kouai Jordan were as always on a search and destroy mission and were chasing their counterpart as hard as they could. They were just a few ticks of the clock off the pace. For the Class D champions, Manfred Schroeder and Warder Huxtable, there were some very promising signs since they've stepped up to the SP class. And for the Castrol Toyota Hilux with Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin aboard, there was the same as they were within a minute of the pace. SP champion Woolridge was desperate to open up his points account, and it was even bad for business for the Maritzburg man. For Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar and their Century Properties Nissan, there was a solid, if unspectacular, 6th place in class looming. They clocked 47 minutes and 29 seconds for the 55 Ks of quick punishment. The Norwegian driver Ivar Tollefsen and his sidekick Englishman Quinn Evans were fast becoming used to the all-South African conditions, and there was a 7th place in the SP class for them after a good drive. In the Castrol Toyota, Bevan Bertolt and Robin Houghton, there was trouble as they first lost their power steering and then started overheating. They were almost 5 minutes off the pace. What was also clear was that the route was very well marked. Just notice all the orange stickers pointing the way. Describing the route as a car breaker, Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst went easy on the prologue, trying to save their Castrol Toyota. But in Class D, Cliff and Louis Weichelt were going as fast as they could. They won the prologue, but only just by a scant 6 seconds. The Raconics men Kutsiala Beskachny and Johan Gerber in the Nissan went very well, but just after this, unfortunately Gerber was called back home because his home had burnt down. That left Coetzee doing the solo business. The unusual-looking Chevrolet with Herman de Villiers and Willie Prinsloo, the organizer of the Ford Motorrad Limpopo and Ford Carnival City 400, won Class S with oodles of time to spare, despite this little wrong slot. Coming off a fine win in KwaZulu-Natal, the husband and wife duo of George and Sharon Barkhuizen were well down the order and deeply disappointed. In Class E, Thomas Rundle and Brian Roberts and their Baden Tyres Nissan were solid, just 23 seconds off the pace. But after the 55 Ks of prologue, it was Duncan Foss and Rolf Pitchford who were triumphant by 7 seconds over their stablemates Krobler and Jordan. Schroeder and Huxtable impressed by taking third, a minute down. In the special vehicle category, there was some really tight racing. Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau in the Total Motorsport Porter set a cracking pace, and the rest were holding on to their coattails. And the Harpers were along for the ride. The Atlas Copco sounded in good working order. Their teammate Gary Bertelt and Henry Costain in the second Atlas Copco were right there too, just 2 seconds further back. And the ever-consistent Karl-Heinz Silvold and Quinton Silvold amazed by clinching 4th place in their Zarko, just 37 seconds further back. Musaji and Bodhanya did their new sponsors proud by taking 5th, 90 seconds further. While reigning SA champ Motorrights Alfie Cox and Henny Terstegen were only 11th, feeling out the 3rd generation back gingerly. The Cries took 20th overall and 1st in Class B, while the end of the prologue came for Thompson and Blakey, missing a left back wheel in action. Johan and Etienne Besaidnout in their Denko back took 2nd in Class B, 48 seconds off the Cries. With the Century Properties development bat of Ernest Corbett and Warwick Goosen also in close and quick attendance. Richard Schilling and Chris Davies and the Plastotech Aceco have been very consistent for a long time, and they again proved it by winning Class S convincingly. From Glenn Gibson and Mark Whitehurst in their Absolute Aceco, who stopped the clock at 51 minutes and 1 second. While Bez Besaidnout and Johan de Bruin in the second Edenko bat were 3rd in Class B. But the spoils went to Variawa and Rousseau, who led the first 5 cars home all within 70 seconds. And remarkably, the Class A cars all took the places in the top 10. But once the prologue had been dealt with, then the mechanics, technicians and rebuilders earn their keep again. The 55K time trial is always tough on the cars, and then it's assess the damage, make a plan or two, and then start repairing. And there's always a lot of graft going on in the pit area. Henry Zermatten in the Ryobi Nissan had burnt out the gearbox the night before, then a myriad of problems beset them, putting an end to their challenge. But as the sun set at Sun City, they knew the next day would be a hard one. We continue after these.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going the extra mile to get.
And after the first day, most teams were worried that their cars would outlast the terrain. The route was tough, with 2 smaller loops of 120 Ks and then a similar drive with a longer 40 K sting in the tail, tailor-made to brake cars and morale. Not to mention the dust that was already causing visibility and mechanical trouble for drivers, navigators and team bosses. In the meantime, Nissan's Duncan Foss knew that starting at the front would leave him dust-free and relatively free of troubles.
Look, it's good to start in the front. We're not going to have a dust problem. Just got to keep it together, but just try and first hour not make too many mistakes, not make any mistakes. Have a nice pace, get a good rhythm going, and hopefully try and keep the rest behind us.
Absa's Benny Groenewald was getting a few pointers from the championship leaders, but for Kutsela Beskagni, there were some hasty drawn-up plans after a tragedy.
Well, unfortunately, my navigator Johan Gabbe had a tragedy at his house, accident, a fire, his house burned down virtually, and I can't expect of him not to be with his family and sort that things out there. Yes, but we are going to drive solo. I mean, many guys has done it in space frame cars, so I see no reason why we can't do it. Audrey Roots assured me that the course is very well marked, the cautions are very well marked, so I don't foresee any problems, but I'll just be going for a finish, and a lot of my fellow competitors has promised me that they will stop and actually assist me with when I get a flat wheel. So the sportsmanship is great, so we'll see where we come.
For Shamir Variawa, the rougher and tougher the better, and he did win the prologue after all.
It's rough, it's nice. I think it's ideally suited for the special vehicles. And yeah, I love the rough races, so hopefully we do well.
The first flag of the day dropped for Fossen Pitchford in the Nissan Navara, and the 2007 Sun City 400 was truly on the way with an impatient Grobler right on his tailgate. And Fossen Pitchford did not let the grass go under their wheels. They were off and running at the head of the field. The pair were off to a flyer, and well, they should have been with a menacing Grobler right behind them. The Nissan team were hoping for their 40th win in 51 events over the last 6 odd years, and Grobler was desperate to provide it. However, Sun City has not been a happy hunting ground for him of late. He took 5th here last year, and by the way Variawa was catching, it seemed that he was either taking it easy or Grobler was slowing. And the Total Motorsport driver was putting an immense amount of pressure on the 51-year-old. But he couldn't get past either. The Atlas Copco of the Harpers was rolling along smoothly. They were catching up to Variawa at a rate of knots. Their win in the Gluglue event proved that their move to the powerful and slick Atlas Copco backed outfit suited their racing style. But their teammates Gary Berthold and Henry Costain were not going to let them have it all their own way. They had also closed the gap. The Barloworld Absolute Ford of Schroeder and Huxtable was next into view, and as they always do, the Ranger Dio was smooth and cautious without being slow. The Sulwalts and their Sulwalt Transport Zarko next charged past, up one position, with the roughness of the route a big boost for the space frame vehicles. The defending SP class champions Woolridge and Schulthammer were cranking it up too and were hoping for a start to the season after posting 2 DNFs. They were also moving up rapidly. Musaji and Bodhanya were still holding station in the top 10, with Herman Sulwalt and Mornay Miller in the second car right on their exhaust pipe. The big Rapsa bat of Nandus Alberts and Colin Hunter was 7th in class after the prologue and were racing hard for the top 10. With the father and son Rob and Gareth Walk in the Super Pave Special speeding along, but only to fall victim to a broken left front upright, which put paid to their challenge. But there wasn't a lot of breathing space. Rearview mirrors had cars in them as far as the eye could see. The third Atlas Copco bat was being piloted by Archie Rutherford and his co Craig Doubtfire, and they were going well too. The dust was playing havoc with overtaking and getting into engines and eyes. For Evan Hutchison, the new motorized bat was a pleasure to drive, but they experienced one or two teething problems. Tollefson and Quinn were steady as she goes, but admittedly were playing a waiting game. The Regent outfit made a solid debut as Marsh and Groenewald sped by, already 5 places up from 21st overall, but the dust made it look like dusk at times. Their teammates, the Cries, were next, and they were shooting for a hat-trick of wins in Class B. Grenier and Birkin had fixed a power problem after finding a faulty coil, but started off rather cautiously, a fine tactic on this route. The Adenko lads, the Besaid Notes, were ploughing along, looking for a podium in Class B. With Bevan Bertolt and Robin Houghton in the second Castrol Toyota ticking along, but almost ran into a stray special. Bertolt has been working like a Trojan at his fitness, but this time the car overheated, and they had also lost the power steering, which made Bev overheat in turn. Eventually, there was no other way. They had to stop and try to repair. In Class S, Schilling and Davies were making all the right moves. With Roacon head honcho Peter Ruthven and his co-driver Deval Boshoff right behind them, they too would fall by the wayside. The Lone Ranger Kutsia Labaskachny was steering and reading and doing a fine job of both. The Raysonics driver was up from 36th and into the top 25. But still letting the faster men through. Harkis and Moore did not have a happy start, and it continued as they struggled to find a semblance of rhythm. But for Kutsia, it got even worse than that. Ahead of him, there was a traffic jam of note, as special and production cars all wrong-slotted in front of him. A little bit like the M1 on a Friday afternoon, more likely. And back we go, I say. The BB Auto Nissan outfit had 2 cars entered, and Arnold Duplessis and Johan Knox were third in class. Thomas Rundle was going smoothly in Class E and leading with ease, pressurizing the rest. The Royal Blue Chevy with De Villiers and Prinsloo just led Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux in their Toyota. They were second in class. With a final few Ks left to complete lap 1, Foss and Pitchford found the rough Northwest Plains, valleys and rocks to their liking, and they were stamping down their authority. With Variawa just about a minute down and pushing as hard as the porter would let him. Krumler was experiencing suspension trouble, and the Navara wasn't quite performing the way the Burley Nissan stalwart wanted it to. Berthold and Costain swept into third overall after their stablemates, the Harpers, had crashed into a rather large rock while trying to overtake Parayawa. The Atlas Copco Porter sounded mean. And surprise, surprise, Cox raced in. He'd made up a staggering 14 places in just 120 kilometers. The SA champion was flying. Next, another great first lap was produced by Woolridge and Schulthammer, who clocked the fastest opening salvo of the race, a 1 hour and 42-minute effort, and that took them from 9th to 6th, and there was more to come. Musaji and Bodhania were reveling in a new look car and a new position, up from 10th to 7th. And just far enough back for the dust to settle, our camera found the Silwolds holding station in 8th place. Alberts and Hunter were throwing the Rapsat bat around in order to complete the first lap. They were up to 6th in Class A, with the next Silwold car, that of Herman and Mornay Miller, right on their tailgate. Hutchison and his co-driver Kim Bergman were experiencing a few teething problems too with their new specification bat, mostly fuel starvation, which obviously affected them badly. Tollefson and Evans were trying to go as quickly as they could, but this Dakar Rally veteran knows how to nurse a car to the finish. That much was clear. Cronje and Birkin were applying the same philosophy in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, and their new car was settling in very nicely too. Marsh and Groenewald were flying the newcomer Regent Colours High in Class A, and the former Nasher Mobile driver was challenging. But then again, so was the territory. Just ask Richard Schilling, who's seen the worst ever. Even he was quoted as saying that the rate of attrition would be high. Michael Whitehouse, a former navigator, and his new co-Dean Langton, was all over Schilling. And at the end of Loop 1, the VIPs were being entertained, watching as the cars came by for the first look at the pits at high speed. Schroeder and Huxtable were checked and then sped on their way. For ABSA, this is the way to treat their clients.
Yes, the off-road series for us is definitely working. You know, firstly to say, being outdoors, it's always exciting, it's fun, it's a nice environment, and from a branding point of view, it increases our exposure, and obviously also working for us from an investment point of view. We also use these events to bring some of our dominant dealers and our manufacturers to these events, and today here at Sun City we've got over 200 dealers supporting us at this event. So obviously a nice investment, and we've been involved in this investment for the last 6 years, and it's growing year to year.
In the meantime, sponsors, team management and spectators now have a way to keep track of each and every competitor by way of an immensely accurate GPS system.
Our idea from GPTech's point of view, in conjunction with Motorsport CC, was to be able to demonstrate live tracking for the sport of motorsport. What we've done is there are 3 elements. We looked at it from an official's point of view, and the most important element there was safety first. So the idea being that if a competitor gets into trouble, that we're able to see exactly where that competitor is and send out either the mechanical teams or the emergency services. The second element, which we've done together with iAfrica, is the public interface. That's to create a worldwide web interface so you can log on from anywhere in the world, literally, and you can be able to see what the competitors are up to on race day. The third element from the point of view of the competitors is to look at route adherence. What we do prior to the event is we put the route onto the system, and then with the live tracking devices we're able to see how the competitors do compared to what they're supposed to be doing.
The Sun City 400 continues after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Overcoming all obstacles. ABSA, going the extra mile to get you financed.
On to the second lap of the 400-kilometer-long Pilanesberg race in and around this old volcanic crater formed thousands of years ago. But the latest Nissan technology was helping Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford break free of the competition. Eating their dust was Variawa and Rousseau, who were leading Class A but were desperate to win outright. They had a slender lead over the rest in class. Bertolt and Kirstein had managed to get past Grobler, who had to stop to repair a flat, and that got them all fired up. With the Ford Ranger of Woolridge and Scholthammer purring along at breakneck pace and ready to claim their first points of the 07 season. Grobler was mightily disappointed at having to stop, and he and Jordan were still battling their suspension and shock absorber problems. But the mustachioed duo know only one way: never give up. Cox was next, and the Motorite man, who has now clinched 22 national crowns in motorsport, was grinding them all down despite his fuel pump problems in the all-new Bat 3. Tollefson's charge up the leaderboard was impressing all and sundry. From 16th and into the top 10, his second lap was the second fastest of all the production cars. The Sulwald Zarko, with Herman Sulwald driving and Mornay Miller piloting, was doing the same trick, shooting up the order. They were impressive on lap 2. Meanwhile, Marsh and Groenewald also steamed past from 21st right into the top 12. And with a dropout rate almost past the 40% mark, Cronje and Birkin had also made a big move in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. The manufacturer's champions were hard at work. And so was 2005 champion Evan Hutchison. He and Kim Bergman were not only battling conditions and the route, but they also had some mechanical trouble. They'd lost the front brakes entirely, a tough way to drive off-road. To celebrate their 50 years of motor racing, the Total Motorsport crew of Musaji and Bodhania were doing some low flying. These two have been going well on a privateer's budget, but the moment they stepped it up, they were challenging. And ditto for the Regent outfit, brand new to the sport, but with a well-put-together team, and Whitehouse and Langton were up into the top 10 in Class A. The Century Properties Development Nissan with Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar in control were hanging in, but injector trouble soon put an end to their northwest quest, while Schroeder and Huxtable were keeping them honest too. Mark Taylor had quietly worked his way into second place in Class B in the JRE. Father and son Jan and Hendrik Kraaij had the bat sounding and looking very impressive. Schilling and Davies kept plugging away, and with their years of experience, that's what it takes on events as tough as this.
Easy right, easy left.
For Harkis and Moore, there was just one way: pedal to the metal.
Straight ahead. 300 meters, 90 right. That was an ugly holder. Guy keep his right now.
BB Auto's Duplessis and Knox were up from 40th to the top 15 and were very consistent with their lap times. While Rundle and Roberts in the Bowden Tyres entry were also steadily working their way around lap 2's treachery, dust and ever-increasing heat. The De Bruins, Hendrik and Jaap and the Mickelin XL dealer team Toyota had started 63 after the prologue, but they provided the drive of the day to move into 18th place. While Visser and LaRue's steady approach in the Toyota Hilux got them into 2nd place in Class E, halfway through lap 2. Ruakon's Barkhuisens were also going well in their Toyota after setting off in 54th position overnight. The Ford outfit back at the designated service point was starting to smile as word filtered through that they were going well. Jack Beckham and Lucio Santoro were challenging in Class E in their diesel Ranger, while Labuschagne was having the drive of his life all on his own-some lonesome in the Raceonics Nissan. At DSP, the Nissan crew were ready to go to work on Force's Charge, which still looked in perfect nick. Team manager Glenn Hall was on hand to get the latest on the car and the conditions.
No problems. We've had a trouble-free run so far, and yeah, we've got one more lap to go.
What's it look like out there?
It's getting extremely bumpy because we've already done it 3 times, so when we go now, we'll have done it a 4th time, and it's shaking us to pieces.
The Atlas Copco Porter with Gary Bertelt and Henry Costain got their crew buzzing next after all the dust.
Yeah, it's very, very dusty. It's a very tough day out there. Unfortunately, we got stuck behind Duncan coming in here where there's a lot of dust, so we lost a bit of time there. But yeah, good race. Just got to keep it together for the last 180 k's now.
Ford supporters grinned from ear to ear as Woolridge and Schulthammer appeared next at the Sun City DSP, their second lap having taken just 1 hour and 46 minutes, but the battle scars were evident. In the Nissan camp, there were some worries as their number 1 man, Grobler, just could not get going. A flat late on lap 2 hindered their cause even more. As Hutchison made his appearance, Jordan was taking stock.
Baie rof en ons het 'n bietjie van 'n probleem met die skokbrekers. Ons weet nie wat die probleem is nie. Ons gaan nou kyk. Ons het baie tyd verloor. Ons het ook 'n paar wiel gehad, maar ons gaan 'n lekker tyd hê.
As Voss stepped into the breach one more time for the mammoth last lap over 180 k's, the team manager for Motorrad reflected on the first 240 kilometers and the job still ahead.
No, we're having a tough day, man. We've got the same reoccurring fuel pressure problem. I think we got about 3rd place. We've been passing people the whole day, the whole morning. We had no problems. First lap, just catching guys and passing them in the dust. It was a bit tricky. But we've got this fuel problem which dropped us back to 5th or 6th position, I think. So there's nothing we can do. We've got to just carry on limping. We're not really racing. We're just driving to finish. We have to get points. So they found a few things that we think might be the problem at the moment. And if that's made a difference, then we'll be able to give it a full go again. But at the moment, we're just sort of limping on.
The surprise package in the specials was without doubt Musaji and Bodhanya, who were up into the top 5 and taking no prisoners. While Cronje and Birkin were getting ready to do battle after their compulsory 15-minute stop at DSP. For Manfred Schroeder and Ward Huxtable in the Barlow World Absolute Ford Ranger, there were 1 or 2 hiccups, but they got on top of it.
What's it like out there?
No, it was quite rough. Just the first lap, our steering wheel came off, so to stop and tighten it again, and it came off. We ended up getting here with 2 bolts, and then the last 5 k's we had a puncture. And then, the second lap we had a nice clean run, but it's very dusty. You can catch the guys and you cannot get close to them to pass them.
Vehicle and asset finance from Absa, going off the beaten track to find solutions. Finance from Absa, overcoming all obstacles.
With less than 100 k's to go to the finish line of a 2007 Sun City 400, Nissan Navara duo Duncan Voss and Ralph Pitchford were completely in control and just had to bring her home for a victory. Passing backmarkers who were still on their second lap, these 2 men were flying along. This duo had not tasted victory since round 7 of 2006 and were ready for a mouthful of it. And in the special vehicle class, Alfie Cox had passed 17 other cars on a storming run to get into the lead and second overall in the new Motorrad Bat. Woolwich and Schulthammer were next, and they themselves had a superb drive, finally looking like they were going to open their championship points account. The reigning SP champions just had to bring it home in one piece. But Grobler and Jordan were battling their suspension problems, and it slipped to third, a strange sight just of late. Grobler in someone else's dust. Sewald and Moller were getting a lot of encouragement from the roadside and were on their way to upsetting a whole lot of big names. They were loading up to record the third fastest time for the last loop. While Cronje and Birkin saved the car philosophy was working, they'd got themselves into the top 5 in the SP class. But their rearview mirrors was full of a flying Hutchison and Bergman, who'd sorted out a lot of their early troubles in the Motorite bat, and they were really batting. The same could have been said about the new Total Motorsport crew Naeem Musaji and Rehan Bodjana. They were strutting their stuff and climbed 2 places in class for that coveted podium. Tollefson, who's a mountaineer in his spare time, and Quinn were also very consistent, and they picked off cars in front of them with regularity. While others dropped out ahead and behind them, Marsh and Groenewald were up from 21st to 9th overall, a sizzling drive. While their teammates Whitehouse and Langton complained of oversteer, but they were right behind them, also up 13 positions. And the trio of Regent cars was completed by the father and son combination Jan and Hendrik. The Cries were leading Class B. Schroeder and Huxtable were up to 6th in the production car class and SP, but were hoping to perhaps pick up 1 or 2 more places, but 2 punctures ended that idea. Taylor and Keith also produced one of the drives of the afternoon and closed the gap to the Cries in Class B to just 1 minute and 46 seconds, but couldn't get any closer. Ruacon's White brothers were finishing with gusto, and on the home stretch, they slotted into 9th place in the specials. With a Meccarin Excel dealer Toyota of the De Bruins taking 7th in the production cars, they started off 63rd in the morning and just kept going smoothly. The absolute bat of Gibson and Brown was also putting together a fine third loop over 180 Ks and appropriately wearing number 10. That's where they would eventually finish. Ruacon's racing team got a second finisher to the line as the Brain and Brits wove their way around and over the last obstacles. With the BB Auto team grabbing a top 10 spot with Arnold Duplessis and Yuri Knox nursing the Nissan hardbody through. Visser and LaRue worked their Toyota, nursed it all the way through and won Class E handsomely. It was a great performance. But it was closer than it looked, as George and Sharon Barkhuizen in the Bloemfontein-based Ruacon Toyota were just 59 seconds behind them and chasing hard. With Rundle right behind them, he was destined to get some help from Jack Peckham after he got stuck. And that's what makes the off-roaders such a refreshing bunch. They'll stop and help a fellow competitor, even if it affects their own chances. Roost Racing's Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer also impressed by getting their Toyota to the line. They were 4th in Class E. And then the emotional story of the day. The Raconics Nissan of Kutsiela Baskachny may have been looking the worst for wear, but he soloed it up to 2nd in class and a tearful finish back at Sun City. A brave performance for his co-driver, Johan Gerber. The Ford team got their third car to the finish when Harkus and Moore appeared. Despite a few problems, and then this quick stop for some up-to-the-minute information. In Class S, Nick Gosler and Richard Carolyn had finally taken the lead after a race-long battle with Schilling, and they made the most of it. While Schilling and Davies battled a myriad of mechanical problems and lost an hour trying to fix them.
Hey, yes, good.
Yeah, going well, eh?
Back at Sun City, a packed finish line pavilion greeted Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford as they steered the Nissan Navara home to a very popular victory. And even though there was some evidence of an altercation with a very firm object somewhere along the line, the twosome were celebrating their first win in 4 races. They clocked 6 hours and 48 minutes and beat all the specials to the line. Two-time off-road champion Alfie Cox brought his navigator Henny Tersteega home just 3 minutes later to claim the special vehicle crown and 25 points for the win. The Motorrad team had done a great job of sorting out all the little things that a new car produces. Cox's joy at mounting a challenge for his umpteenth national title was apparent. He clocked the fastest last lap time of the day for this great finish. Ford were equally gleeful. Woolridge and Schulthammer finally garnered some points. They took second, almost 5 minutes down on Foss. And again the Sun City bush, heat and dust was unkind to reigning SA champ Hannes Grobler and his nav Francois Jordan. They finished just 19 seconds behind the Ford duo. But they would have been pleased to keep it all in the family as Foss and Pitchford celebrated a triumphant return to the top of the podium, or at least top of the car.
Yeah, you know, we've had such a good weekend. We qualified on pole, and I knew we had an advantage this morning if we could just keep cool, keep ahead of the other guys. We had a huge dust advantage, so we just had to go at a really quick pace but not make any mistakes, and we gradually built up a lead and we had a great race, no problems whatsoever.
And just how did the production cars beat the specials?
Sure, I don't know how. You know, they're so powerful, they're so light, so I know we got 4-wheel drive in comparison to their 2-wheel drive, but I don't know, maybe obviously the conditions suited us slightly in our favor, but you know, the new bets, it was their first outing, so I think they had teething problems, but we'll take the win. I don't know. They should have beaten us.
In the Motorrad enclosure, there was the same gleeful joy as Cox and Hutchison took their new Chargers out for the first time and produced.
Yeah, look, to come out with two brand new cars, these new Spec 3s, you know, we had our doubts because there's always gremlins in it, and that's what it was. I mean, we only qualified 18th on the road, and Sun City's got to be the worst place you could ever have for dust, and I fought through the dust this morning, and then the gremlins set in, and we had fuel problems, and then the oil pressure problems, and so the whole day it's been soldering on, and I think I got up to 3rd place, and then Shamir, unfortunately, he broke down, and then I got up to 2 minutes of Gary, and I think he had gearbox problems. So, yeah, look, it's a win. Doesn't matter what happened to the other guys, and we've also had our problems today. But to be quite honest, the first time with Motorrad, this new BAT 3, it's fantastic. I mean, you can't ask for better.
Woolridge and Ford were also very pleased with finally getting onto the leaderboard.
No, we had a good day. It was a hard day. It was a hard race, but the Ford Ranger ran without a problem from day one, from word go. We battled in the dust this morning, I think, like everybody, but I think starting 9th after the time trial yesterday wasn't the best move. So really the first lap and second lap were so different because we could go so much faster on the second lap, but the dust really held us up, and I think Duncan just got that bit of a gap on us. But then it was just playing a waiting game, you know. We pushed hard when we could, but there were traps out there waiting for you all the time with the dust and the big stumps. Probably the roughest Sun City we've ever had, really, really rough. and you can see how dry it is. I think they're going to have a tough winter here, but the car ran fine, and yeah, 100%.
Castrol Toyota's Cronje was pleased to get the Hilux to the line.
Yeah, look, it was a nice finish for us for a change. We're making some progress with the vehicle. We had some higgly bits that cost us a good position today. But Cowboys don't cry, and I'm really looking forward to the desert race. I think with a positive note, the vehicle is definitely getting better. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Arnold du Plessis and Johan Knox got their first finish of the season, and the Polokwane team celebrated.
Finally, the first one this year. I've had a lot of trouble in the beginning of the year with breakages and side shaft braking, but I think eventually it came through today. We drove hard. The last lap we started about 6 minutes before the competition, and we decided we'll just take it casual and make sure that they don't get past us. So we pulled it off, and we've got a vehicle here in one piece. That helps.
Out of the 74 teams that started, only 42 finished, a testimony to the treachery of the route, and the length of the final lap was also no joke. In the top 10 production cars, Nissan and Toyota matched each other with 4 apiece, while Ford nabbed 2nd and 6th. While Cox was the only special to break the 7-hour mark, Silwalt and Miller's fine last lap dragged them all the way up into 2nd, while the Cries scored their 3rd win in as many races. Until next time, you keep it on the road, we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate test, the ABSA Off-Road Championship. Now